Okay, everyone. Um, Welcome to kind of a side episode of the Near Death Experience podcast. This is going to be an episode that's kind of off track from what I usually do. Um, I'm generally okay to do things like submit bug reports and whatever. Play some games, tell you what I think about them. But this is going to be going through some of the more major things wrong with Diablo 2 Resurrected. So I'm going to need to clear up a few things before I really get into the video of, me playing it and getting into all the different types of uh, things that are going on. And there's some stuff to understand first before you really get why things are a problem. I do want to say up front, though, that I have had fun playing it. I'm in Act 5 hell. I'm having basically the normal amount of trouble that someone with my gear would generally have. But the game's bugs are holding me back a little more. So I'm going to go into first, at least, the how should I put this? The context of why the bugs are happening and try to give you some baseline for any of this going on. So even before Diablo 2 Resurrected released, there were people on the very pure side of the game talking about things like the uh, timings of all the attacks, because the original game was based on 25 FPS. So if you change, how long, like I'm going to show a teleport animation takes, then that changes the breakpoint value because it was tied to the frame rate initially. So something that ends pretty quickly can end relatively slowly. And during a lot of the preamble to release Vicarious Visions and Blizzard themselves were saying, you know, um, we kept everything original. The original engine was used in that respect. So the timings are fine, blah, blah, blah. Uh, Conceptually, sure, that's true. The reality of the situation is the new overlay is causing a lot of the problems we were afraid would be caused by this. I do want to stress, though, that the actual game, the actual original engine of Diablo 2 is running perfectly fine here. It's doing everything that it should be doing for original Diablo 2. So I'm going to make sure my sound is on for this. And I'm going to show you a video of me streaming it and testing out teleport. And I'll kind of show you why things are a little screwy. So I'm going to take my face out of this for and just let the video play. So I'm going to turn on the sound here. And let's go. Okay. Well, I don't think the sound for that was coming through, and I apologize for that. But essentially, what I had said was I'm going to go to the end of this map and start teleporting to demonstrate the um, different timings from Legacy to G2 Resurrected. So I'm going to play this again, but continue to talk over it. So we can see that, I'm porting just fine, but you can see the 3D model doing a lot more motion than the original sprite. And why this is because the new overlay is trying to estimate what that original animation would look like at 60 FPS. So, as much as the timing is correct, the relative number of frames that it takes for teleport to execute at 60 FPS at the 105 breakpoint, which I'm not at in this one. I'm at like 63, I think. My actual SCR is 65. But I tested it out on a level 95 sorceress with 105 castrated. And the ratio of frames is, it should take 8 on the original to execute that animation, which is very quick. It's under half of the frame rate of Diablo 2, in the original mechanics. But once you transfer that to 60 FPS, I got a value of 19.2 frames, which is not only longer than the original cast frames anyway, because it's like 13 in base Diablo 2. Not only that, it also is a larger fraction of 60 FPS than the previous value at like the original 13. So we're talking about a difference of like, let me calculate this. Hold on. What's 8 over 25? So it's 0.32 seconds. And okay, so it is the same fraction. It's 0.32 seconds at 105. So on that basis, I was a little bit incorrect, but the actual frame number discrepancy is so large that, like I said, you can start seeing such a like clunkiness to it, right? Because now you're not casting at 8 frames, you're casting at a value that's, and flip open the calculator again. So 19.2 divided by 8. So let's see. It's 2.4 times slower. So like I said, as much as the timing is correct, it is 0.32 seconds at that particular 105. But the fact of the matter is that because it's running at a higher frame rate, the animation is 2.4 times slower. And that not only affects teleport, but everything else that relies on the frame rate to do something. So whether that's block frames are slower by 2.4 times, things that would have otherwise ticked at a rate of, much slower compared to now, means that anything that has dot damage is now faster because the frame rate's higher. So there's more chances for that tick damage to go up during 1 second, right? And that's what's causing really most of the headaches here. That's really like the core of the problem, because you can point to that one particular thing causing like a cascade of other bugs. And, there are other issues with the game. Chiefly among them, I found that there's actually kind of a stretch issue on the screen for hitboxes. I think I had reported this in beta as well. So I'm just going to sign into Battle.net quickly and pull up 2 bar. to demonstrate the issue. Okay, yep. So this is live Diablo 2 Resurrected. Um, and I'm going to demonstrate how things are not really placed correctly on the screen in terms of their hitboxes. And I'm not sure if this affects the mobs as well. So we're kind of subject to the cues of this game. So anyway, I'm going to show buying a potion in the overlay, which I can't do. You can see yes is highlighted, but clicking does nothing. So on the new overlay, what you'd have to do is click, not move your mouse, and hit enter. But if you go into legacy mode, everything is placed correctly, and I can buy potions no problem. Similarly, this happens with the belt. So obviously I'm hovering over it. I think it'll work this time. But I did have an issue with it actually like picking up properly at one point. The hitbox was too low. I'm gonna try depositing gold as well, and I think it might have just been an issue that was pronounced because I was switching between overlays. So I'm gonna take whatever single digit gold. Okay, that particularly works fine now. So let's switch back a few times. There is a little delay for it coming up. But I did actually, like I said, find some drift, and I can't replicate it right now. But anyway, you can already see that, you know, even the potion window is a little off because you can't vendor things properly. And this sort of drift happens everywhere else as well. I'm not sure if it's whether I was like playing this game for an extended period of time or what have you, or that, you know, I switched between overlays here and there that caused the hitbox drift. But in terms of the like frame rate issue, I spent a couple of hours talking to someone in chat that I played a lot of Diablo 3 with. So he's pretty familiar with things that would be going on, and he saw that too. It just sucks that the workaround for something like that is to now press 2 keys instead of 1, and it really like slows you down and causes a lot of friction when you're trying to play the game. So again, just to reiterate, the game under the hood, as you can see when I was switching to legacy mode, is absolutely perfect. That is behaving just fine, and there's no actual problems with the old engine because it doesn't look like they changed anything. But if you look at the animation difference and you say, okay, well, we're keeping the timings, that's dangerous now because, like I said, 0.32 of 8 or 0.32 of 25 is the 8 frames that it takes originally. But when you go up to 60 FPS, it now takes 19.2 frames for your teleport to fully execute, which again is slower than the original animation with like no FCR. And that, like I said, leaks into things like block frames because it's very easy to get caught in the loop. I actually tried to replicate that when I was streaming as well, and there were a lot of situations where I could have gotten hit in D2 Resurrected, but in Legacy mode, I survived, and other times when I was playing, I could either get into block loops or stun loops because those rely on the frame rate as well. So, like I said, if it's taking me like 20 frames to get out of a block versus like a few frames in the original engine, that means in the new game I'm dead, and in the old game, I could be just fleeing from any sort of damage because there's a difference in the smoothness of the animation. It just doesn't become crisp anymore. It doesn't become that, fast paced kind of action that you used to out of D2, but, it becomes more of an annoyance. And, I can see how a lot of this would have passed if they were looking at it on a surface level without kind of extrapolating the numbers to see really where everything ended up. But when it comes to the release product, I can't really say that playing in the new graphics is really that much of an improvement. Like I said, it's more of a hindrance than anything else. So my final verdict of the game, I've said this multiple times. The beta was too short. The beta was too limited in scope, and I had reported those position issues with my cursor in the beta as well. I'm pretty sure. But I don't know what's going on with that. I've seen some forum threads, and forgive me for not really paying a whole lot of attention to the forum because I find it can be a pretty negative environment in that place. And it's not really conducive to good conversation. It just turns into a lot of Blizzard bashing. So I like to do things like keep track of blue posts instead. Um, if you're kind of tilted about this game, I don't blame you. It's if I wanted to break it down, I would say the art, absolute 10 out of 10. Now, when I rate the gameplay, I have to split this up. I have to look at it in terms of the baseline legacy overlay, baseline legacy graphics, and the overlay. If I'm thinking about the overlay and the new timing for graphics, this game, quite honestly, is probably a 7, and that's being generous. Um, it's definitely possible to play through it. It's definitely possible to pass it. BattleNet is BattleNet. It's just going to be that. The method that they use to track things like your character's position and all of the uh, things you do in game, even such as menuing, needs server side detection and authentication. So there's not really any good lag compensation. So when lag happens, you really feel it straight away. You need a good active internet connection to really play this game online, and that causes a lot of problems as well. So that's a definite -1. Like I said, the new overlay, the animation timing's also a knock against this game. But I'm not rating it lower because, like I said, it's still possible to get through it. It's still possible to have some fun, but this is coming from someone who played this in the past and played a lot of single player, with a lot less issues on classic, and I would have hoped for better on this, to be perfectly honest. Um, some of the issues are down to BattleNet, so I didn't knock it for that, but there are a lot of other games out there that offer way better things like lag compensation and what have you to really make the experience a lot better. And they still take care in making the game secure. Path of Exile is a perfect one. They have very good and very clever lag compensation mechanics because, for example, if you're playing on the correct network mode, at least for this to happen, the game will continue to simulate what's happening if you start to lag and then sort of catch up and then report back and say, okay, well, you'll go a little faster, but everything will still process. But in terms of BattleNet, all of this happens in real time, and there's nothing to separate you from that lag compensation. So getting away from things and trying to avoid the disconnection timer is literally impossible. And that's one of the more annoying points of this. I could honestly justify ranking this a 6, but yeah, 7 for being generous and saying it looks pretty, but it doesn't play quite right. Yeah, it this game needs a lot of care taken in how the animation works. I don't know if there's any other underlying issues that expand out of the frame rate, but fixing that will fix a lot of problems, and we'll kind of just have to see what the stability is like. And it kind of sheds a lot of light on why they didn't want a ladder on release. Um, we've actually sort of drifted away from server stability, and now we're looking at does the game actually like function correctly? uh yeah, that's my opinion. I really do think this game needed more time. um I'm not blaming anyone in particular. I'm not trying to say that Vicarious Visions did bad work, because they did amazing work. um it's more like, if you weren't crunching those numbers like specifically and trying to compare the legacy to what the current product is, then I can see how you miss all of the things that I just mentioned. Because without doing something like flipping back and forth between overlays and trying to compare the fact that the sprite is just striking a pose, whereas the 3D model is straight up like moving and kind of doing like a hip thrust motion to get to the next location, but there's a lot of sway. There's a lot of extra time there that you wouldn't expect. Um, yeah, I mean, I think I'm rambling on a bit about this, but those are my feelings. Um, if you're thinking about buying this game and you're in my camp where you're starting to notice this little stuff, I would rate it a do not buy. If you're new to Diablo 2 and you've never seen any of this stuff before, uh my opinion kind of reverses. I would say buy it, try it out. You can finally play it in full res. So, that's nice. But yeah, that's it for me. I'm gonna stop rambling now, but enjoy the game. Blizzard, I really hope you fix all of this stuff, because honestly, this game is dying faster than you think without a ladder. And especially be with the speedrunning scene, because I don't think there's a constructive way that any speedrunner can actually speedrun this game. I mean, what we have here is kind of a Path of Exile defensive situation. There are options available in the early game to get you part of the way where you want to be, but there's nothing available until the absolute end of the line where you have a fully like kitted out character and you can hit those high breakpoints, at which point your defenses would improve just inherently from being able to teleport faster and get out of um, stun and block animations quicker. Yep. Generous 7 out of 10, realistic 6 out of 10, and a salty 5 out of 10. Yep. Peace out.